This is a viola. I look tiny compared to it. Hello everybody, in this video we're going to talk about how we can compose with restrictions in order to subvert our own ingrained compositional technique and hopefully compose something we wouldn't have done otherwise. This is an introspective process and won't guarantee composing something completely standout and new against a backdrop of current compositional practice by other composers. But it will help you to expand your own personal compositional voice, which is a good thing, I think. In this video we'll discuss first how we can explore notation, that is literally the way that you write music down. We'll also explore 2, sonority, so these are things such as pitch, rhythm, articulation, dynamics, and 3, the physicality of the musical instrument. So literally how the instrument is supposed to be played, or instrumental technique. And we'll explore this in a way that we'll explore all these 3 things in a way that subverts our own preconceived ideas about how we might approach composition. Throughout this video, I will be referring to my composition Parallax Error, composed in 2014 for any 4-string bowed instrument with a bridge. So first, notation. First, let's explore how we can impose restrictions that will affect the way we notate our music. As I've already mentioned, I'm going to refer to my composition, Parallax Error, as a case study. Now, composing Parallax Error for any 4-string bowed instrument involved experimenting with an instrument that I am not familiar with. I'm not familiar with playing. That's the crucial difference. I'm a composer, I can write for it, I understand the instrument in and out, but I've not played it. I'm not trained in playing it. Although this piece can be performed on any 4-string bowed instrument, my compositional process involved experimenting with a viola. And it's important to note at this stage that I am a pianist. By physically playing the viola, having had no training in it, I was effectively experimenting with an unfamiliar situation that in turn affected my musical notation. When I started writing this piece, I just thought, right, I'm going to play around with the viola and I'm going to write down what I experiment with, or the sounds I experiment with, or the sounds I explore. So, I don't know how to play the viola. And I thought, don't worry about it. Just make a noise out of this thing. I also have pre-existing knowledge of avant-garde music and was happy to experiment with extended techniques on the viola. So my knowledge of the avant-garde music style influenced the way I approached the viola because I was happy to explore it in non-conventional ways, or in ways that would probably sound very avant-garde. Extended techniques, tapping it, things that are just not as you would think you'd approach a viola in terms of traditional music. Now, as I've said, because I'm not a trained violist and I'm more comfortable with the piano, my viola playing technique involved a separation of right and left hands, just naturally. And this is reflected in Parallax Error's notation, which has separate staffs for the right and left hands, much like traditional piano music notation. I have to say here that this mode of notation is not unique amidst avant-garde practice in general. There exist other works that explore decoupling, such as those of Aaron Cassidy and Klaus K. Hübler, amongst others. And as a useful example, because we're here to learn, why not have a look at Aaron Cassidy's The Crutch of Memory, written in 2004, for indeterminate string instrument. You can also find this on Aaron Cassidy's website. Wow, that's so weird. Like, it's just so similar. I didn't even know about this piece when I wrote Parallax Error. This is the point I'm making. And regarding the decoupled works of Hübler, see what Tanja Orning has written about the ethics of performance practice in complex music after 1945, available in Transformations of Musical Modernism, edited by Erling E. Gilbrandsen and Julia Johnson. It's a Cambridge University Press book. It's good. And other examples of decoupled works include the works of James Dillon, his piece Überschreiten in 1986, and Brian Ferneyhough's Time and Motion Study 2, composed between 1976 and 1977. And then there's also, of course, Helmut Lachenmann's Pression, written in 1969. How can we leave that one out? I didn't know about these pieces when I wrote Parallax Error. I mean, okay, I knew of Lachenmann's Pression, how could you not know? But did I know that he'd separated it? Well, he hasn't separated it in the same way I've separated it. I literally approached it like a piano. It's a tricky one, isn't it? How do you know what you knew already? Anyway, wherever the knowledge came from, it should be noted that the similarity of Parallax Error's notation to existing notational approaches happened despite this being unintentional. My deliberate attempts to overcome my own preconceived ideas about composing nevertheless resulted in an adherence to existing avant-garde practice overall. And that's avant-garde with a capital A-G. And I have to say, when I was trying to do this, I wasn't necessarily trying to just overcome my own preconceived ideas. I thought, well, I've obviously got a knowledge of things that exist. And we all, when we write avant-garde music, we want to write something new, don't we? We want to be forward-thinking. That's the whole point of being avant-garde. And so I thought, well, I'm going to try this, but I'm going to try and overcome my own restrictions about what I think music is. Because that's obviously not doing anything new. And all I can say by doing that is I ended up overcoming my own personal restrictions, because I ended up writing music that adhered very much to an avant-garde style. Textbook, in fact. It was bizarre. Having said this, in my defence, this doesn't mean that I wasn't being avant-garde within my own closed, introspective composing world. I developed personally. I was forward-thinking in that respect. I'd done something different. But ultimately, what did this result in? Nothing that radical or groundbreaking. I just wrote something very cliched, very stylistic of avant-garde music. And I think this is a valid point we should take note of. Exactly what it could mean, or what it means, requires more debate, but I can say at this stage now, in my research, that it at least means that being new or avant-garde today is totally futile. It also suggests the existence of an avant-garde style, the capital letters version avant-garde. This interests me because the avant-garde is supposed to be about being new and forward-thinking, and it was that originally. If we look back, when music seemed to really create some sort of reaction in the audience, something new had happened. If we think back to, say, Schoenberg when he first did his 12-tone row, for instance, or Stravinsky when he wrote The Rite of Spring and everybody just walked out. New things were happening at the time. Or when everybody laughed at John Cage when he was on that talk show. New things were happening, but now they've stopped, I think. It seems to have become static, because I think once you can highlight a stylistic trait of something, it's become, well, reified, as I keep talking about in my dialectics lectures. And this is why I am doing videos on dialectics, because they are important for writing music, I think, and understanding where music sits within the development of music as a whole, and how we as composers are, well, it helps us to become more aware of what we're doing. Are we moving music forward? Are we being avant-garde? Or are we adhering to a style? Are we just doing what people are doing because it's fashionable? What is it to become a composer? Are you in charge of what you write, or is it written despite you? My channel seems a bit disparate at the moment because it's about performing arts, but dialectics is like the underpinning to it all. I think the more videos I make, the more it'll become obvious what I'm doing. So how did this approach affect the sort of music I composed? So I experimented with sounds. So as we have the glissandi, open